This Thursday, the President will address the nation and deliver the annual State of the Nation address to Parliament. Last time, in following a drawn-out 2017 election campaign, President Kenyatta leaned hard on the unity subject, asking the nation to summon the harmony it needed to fix itself and repair the bonds broken by the bruising political contest. With the newfound allies but facing more ugly spots over the war on graft, the President this year has a lot of ground to cover. But what are the top issues the country expects him to cover, and how do his claims in the previous addresses hold up to closer scrutiny? Well, Africa Check's Alphonse Shiundu joins us to help us look out for the truths, the half-truths and the lies ahead of Thursday. Here's a state of the facts. But first, what top 5 issues do you think the President has to address in his speech on Thursday?
Thank you very much, Zainab. So the top 5 issues are the issues, the bread and butter issues. So we will be thinking about the economy, we'll be thinking about jobs, we'll be thinking about debt, we'll be thinking about food security, which is a big issue. And then we would want an update on the Big 4 agenda. So where are we with his plan about the housing scheme? Where are we with his pledge to increase the manufacturing in the country? Where are we with universal health care? And where are we with whatever, anything else he has on his agenda? So those would be my top 5.
All right.
Yes. Definitely.
So throughout the years and through the State of the Nation address that the President has used the platform to address the nation, there are a number of issues that have come out. We'll start with the economy, and we're going to fact check that. The President noted in his previous State of the Nation address that the country's real gross domestic product grew by 4.9% in 2017. Is that true?
Yes, we checked that and we found that to be true. So we checked that against the data that we get from the Economic Survey and the updates that we get from the Parliamentary Budget Office. So that data tallies with what the President said. So we take that to be an accurate reflection of the public record. And so we rate it as correct.
Okay.
Yes.
On job creation, the Jubilee government promised to create 1.3 million jobs every year and work with county governments to establish at least one industry in every county. Has that been achieved?
So we found that that is a pledge they are making going forward. But in their first term, they promised 500,000 jobs, which would translate a year, so that would translate to 2.5 million jobs a year. 2.5 million jobs at the end of the first term. So when we checked that, the numbers would show that, because if you add up the numbers on the Economic Survey, the numbers show that actually they met the job target. But the question becomes, what are these jobs? What's the quality of those jobs?
The government also pledged to work with the private sector to enhance food and agricultural production on at least the 1.2 million acres. Where are we at this point?
Well, the last time we checked that claim, we found that the National Irrigation Board had figures. And those figures showed that all the land in Kenya under irrigation was 470,000 acres. So when the President, and that was after Galana Kuladu, we were doing these numbers a year ago, and just before the State of the Nation. So we found it's 470,000. So for us to get at 1.2, we need to add like 700,000. Then you have all these questions that we are having about the dams in Aror, Kimwarer, Itare, all the questions about the dams. So it's for now, it's not a million. We can confidently say we are not at 1.3, we are not at 1 million. The best we could be doing could be in the region of 500 to 700,000, but that is if we take it that the government has been doing. But the number that I can go with confidently, that you can verify and I can verify, it's 470,000 acres.
Let's talk about devolution. And the President said that from an allocation of, that is 210 billion, In the financial year 2013-2014, the county's budget now stands at 372 billion for the financial year 2018-2019, which is an increase of 56% in 5 years. Is that true?
We found that to be mostly correct, because when you look at the numbers, so we checked the Division of Revenue Act, which is the one that allocates money between the two levels of government, and we also checked with the reports of the control of budget, which show how much money was allocated to the counties. So, and we also check the Appropriations Act and the County Allocation of Revenue Act. So all those show us that it's true in 2013-2014 that's the figure increased. That's the first full year under devolution. The figures increased from 210 billion, which was 31% of the then most recently approved revenues, and it came to 372 billion. In 2018-2019, which works out to 39.8 of the most recent approved audited revenues for the country.
All right.
Yes.
Now remember also the President is very keen to implement the government's Big Four agenda, which is meant to solidify his legacy. And on the same is health. Now the President said free maternity services and the continued enrollment of more Kenyans into the government-sponsored NHIF program are some of the key achievements in the attainment of the universal healthcare, which is quite a very big program by the government. Now, these are the figures. Maternal mortality, he says, fell from 488 deaths per 100,000 lives to 362 deaths per 100,000 lives. Now, this is according to his previous State of the Nation address. Do those figures match?
Yes, when we check with the figures from the Ministry of Health, and we look at the data that has been collected by other international bodies that are interested in healthcare in the country, the figure of maternal health seems to tally. So for us, we looked at that and we rated it as mostly correct.
Right.
But it would be better for us to have an accurate record. The Kenya Demographic Health Survey, that's we could demsema kweli at that point. So that is something that would allow us to verify. I don't know when the next one, the last one that we have is from 2014, but when the next one comes out, that's the one that we can now rely on and audit the government very well.
Now the Jubilee government promised to tarmac 10,000 kilometers of roads across the country. The President said the government is on target, that was last year, having completed about 3,000 kilometers by 2018, with a further 5,000 kilometers under construction. But before you answer me, let's listen in to the President.
We promised to tarmac 10,000 kilometers of road across the country. We are on target, having completed 3,000 kilometers to date, and with a further 5,000 kilometers under construction. Among the many roads we have completed, I just want to mention one, and that is the Isiolo-Moyale Road, part of the Trans-African Highway Corridor, running to our border with Ethiopia.
There is no publicly verifiable record to show us that, yes, this is what was promised, this is what was built, and this is the road.
So let's talk about electricity, and this touches on the last mile connectivity project, which was rolled out, remember, in 2015, which the President said would seek to increase electricity access, especially in rural and peri-urban areas. So he says by 2018, electricity has already been expanded to 71% of households. Is that true?
That's unlikely, that's incorrect, because for electricity, we depend on figures from the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, because effectively it's a monopoly for electricity reticulation in the country, and they would know how many customers they have. So the President is right. They had 2.3 million customers when he took power, and that worked out to 27% of the population. But for that to be 71%, he would need to have connected what? No, I'll do the math later. But I'll do the math later. But what we know is he has connected about 6.18 million people. By the last time we read the Kenya Power and lighting company report.
Right. So, Shindu, lastly but not least, is on a very touchy subject, which is corruption. And last year, the president said ill-gotten public assets valued at about 500 million shillings were recovered, and civil proceedings were already instituted for the preservation and recovery of other assets valued at more than 6 billion shillings. When it comes to corruption, do you have the numbers? Do you have the facts to check this?
With corruption, it's the nature of corruption. The way it is, it's a crime. It's secret. It's not something that gets onto the public record. And with corruption, when they say that say 500 million was recovered,
yes,
that we can check with the EACC, but only EACC would have those numbers. Corruption is problematic, and we do not have data. We would have been happier if the Asset Recovery Agency would put its data, make its data public, and put out reports on what these assets that have been recovered are, how much they are worth.
It would be very difficult, again, to fact check that.
To fact check that, yes.
Right.
So when he mentions numbers about corruption, the best we can do is wait for EACC to give us numbers.
All right.